Hey guys, it's Matthew here once again, getting off of a 12 and a half or so hour banger. And I was supposed to be the D2 Amazon Javazon cosplay to begin with. I'm pretty sure we can all agree it worked out just great. In any case, I do want to go ahead and talk about the first day of launch, PoE 2, the new patch, and my thoughts on Huntress, and basically some thoughts overall on a lot of the discussion about PoE 2, how it is right now, and how, the vision, all of that sort of shit. And also just go over how my Huntress is progressing, because I have managed to find a thing that's working for me pretty well at this point. And of course want to share that so that if you are struggling on your Huntress, which you probably fucking are, you can, jump in and maybe do something similar. So let me start out by saying, yes, Huntress is pretty fucking rough to start with. As a first character, as an absolute starter with no gear, with no anything, and just learning skills as you go, it's pretty fucking rough. And I'd say the main reason for why that's so rough is because of just how reliant almost all of the skills are on combos, and specifically on awkward as fuck combos to like generate power, mostly in the form of generating charges. What you can see here in my setup is the one setup I managed to find that works pretty damn well without too much effort, and it's still a lot of effort, and that is twisters with like wind fucking sweep or some shit like that, and it can do quite a lot of damage. As far as I'm concerned, this is basically like the bell setup of the monk, but the bell setup for, spears. And it can do some pretty good stuff, but just about everything else I tried was very rough, and even this setup ends up being kind of rough against bosses that have maybe smaller hitboxes, or maybe like I don't even know why. Sometimes it doesn't work as well. The arenas aren't as good, the hitboxes aren't as good. But overall, yes, Huntress is a very rough start to the game because, you're reliant very early on parry, like to generate almost all of your damage. And I actually was expecting to hate parry, and I was expecting that parry would be something that doesn't really fit too well into this game. But overall, I actually like parry. I'm surprised. I kind of liked parry. What I hated about it was the reliance on parry for your damage and your generation. If you actually use parry and, utilize it for like a bit of defensive stuff, it's kind of cool. It's snappy, it works nicely, and it, can increase damage against an enemy sometimes. But when you are entirely reliant in the early game on parry to generate a charge to then use on a skill that can finally do something, it feels pretty fucking bad. Especially when half the mobs out there in the game won't let you parry them, and the other half will just have attacks that are too big for you to parry, and it's up to you to figure out what that means by face tanking a whole bunch of mobs and then just fucking dying over and over until something happens. So to quickly comment on the state of the game, a lot of people are like, wow, PoE 2 nerfs and it's so fucking bad and all that. I don't personally think that the game is that different compared to before. I think it's probably about the same. It's just that Huntress is a very rough start, and then also if you picked like the blacksmith thing, it's a rough start too. But other than that, you got to bear in mind that PoE 2 and PoE 1 even, at the very start with no currency, no gear, just completely starting out fresh, you are a weak piece of shit of a character compared to what you otherwise will be by just having a second character and having some leveling gear, something like that. My character is probably about a fifth or a tenth as strong as it could be with just a few exalts worth of gear, and we can still get through the game kinda well enough. It's like shit, it's hard, but you can do it, and it's all about finding the right setups. And the other thing you got to bear in mind is that just the same as PoE 1, and which is a huge unfortunate truth of PoE 1 and 2, most skills are absolute fucking garbage until you can make them good. And it's very unfortunate because it just is a complete bait for newer players who think, wow, I like the look of this skill, I'll try and make it work. Wrong. You're not allowed to do that. You have to level with something that's good and then transition into something that's less good but can be good because of certain things. And typically that means we're making starter builds. Typically that means we're gravitating towards certain solved skills. Here's just an example of the Katava Blacksmith I was watching Quinn do, and I was just cackling watching this gameplay. It's next level, vision gameplay. And I can't believe that this actually just made it through where you have to basically smash an anvil for a little bit and then get like a few attacks, and it's just not that much of a payoff. Which is a large part of the problem with all of the current new stuff, like the Huntress and then this anvil thing. You have to do a lot of work for not that much payoff. You have to gain all these frenzies, all this positioning, and all this sort of shit, and then the end result is not that much more than if you didn't do it, which is what should be, the payload, right? You should be putting in effort, you should be generating rewards and results out of it, and unfortunately at this stage, a lot of it is just you have to put in all that work and all that effort to just have a playable character, basically, which is kind of weird. So the game is in a bit of a interesting state. Maybe interesting is the wrong word. In a bit of a tumultuous state in the early game, I think, and in the early to mid game, because the first couple hours of the game for me, honestly, aren't that bad. You play it, you struggle, you're getting new skills, and you know you're weak, but you're getting okay through the game. And then you start to hit a bit of a wall, and then you start to figure out how to break that wall, and then you hit another bit of a wall. So I was just thinking about it, and it's about hours like 2 to 6 where you, unfortunately, the truth is, constantly question yourself and wonder why you haven't quit the game yet. That's the big problem, because you hit these little barriers and spikes where you just your character gets a bit weaker compared to the content, and you think you're doing something wrong. But it's either you haven't got some upgrades in a little while, or you're using a combo of skills that just are a bit outdated and need, updating with a new fucking mechanic or a combo or some shit. And it is a bit rough. So I understand everyone's feeling about PoE 2 feeling a bit shit, but you do have to not understand, you have to remember that we started out this way in PoE 2 with 0.10 3 or 4 months ago. It was exactly the same. I had the same exact feeling on my monk several times throughout the campaign, wondering, man, is this it? Should I quit? I don't know. But then you persevere, you eventually get to the point where it actually becomes fun and good. And yeah, the big problem here is that they've just set you up to have to go through a lot of hurdles to get to the fun, which does suck. But that's kind of, I don't know, the vision at the moment, and that's kind of where we're at. But then more on Huntress. I think Huntress itself just has too many of those hurdles towards getting to that fun that it probably needs some work. The idea of the parry isn't too bad. Gating a lot of your power, especially early on behind the parry, is pretty fucking bad. And then gating a lot of your power through almost all of the skills through frenzy generation and a few other little hurdles is pretty bad as well. You have almost no actual skill where you can just fucking start mashing and have some level of success. You pretty much have to combo almost all of it. So I have had okay success with Huntress, and I think endgame for the Huntress is looking like it's going to be pretty decent. Once you fix the problems, once you get some gear, and I know that there's going to be some insane gear out there. Some of those new uniques are very good. Some of these gems are very good as well. It's just about solving some of the problems. But the early game is in a very rough state for the Huntress. And that's just maybe by design, or maybe went too far into the whole vision style gameplay and not enough testing was done around it. That's kind of how I feel about it. That's what I think is happening. All that said, yeah, I don't want you to feel too doom and gloom. I think if you pick most other things, something like an Essence Drain, I've heard very good things about. You'll just cruise through the campaign, have a good time, and then you can start setting yourself up for other characters and more challenging endeavors, and then have more fun with those as well. I think the game is still in an okay state, but it can definitely be better, and some things like Huntress are absolutely kind of going in the wrong direction of this tough style gameplay. Things like the Katava Blacksmith, that anvil charge up thing, I think that's pretty inexcusable, and it's like there's no chance you would think anyone wants to do that, so why would you have put it in the game that way? Who the fuck knows? We'll see what happens with stuff like that. We've already had a walk back on some of the mob life. They just then put in a hotfix to make campaign a bit easier, which should make things a bit easier overall. But bear in mind, you just need to gear up a bit more. You need some of that flat damage on your gear, and then things will be quite a bit easier on your second character, on your first character with the right investment, all of that sort of shit. But yeah, at the moment, it just is what it is. That's PoE 2. That's even PoE 1. PoE 1's just a much more solved game, so everyone gravitates towards the stuff that's good, takes it for what it is, gets to end game, and then starts blasting, and then they can do whatever they want in second, third, fourth characters. So anyway, with that, I want to go ahead and show you how I've leveled my Huntress, because there's actually like a couple of things that just basically make things way easier than you otherwise would be just randomly struggling with. And then hopefully visions towards the future as well. I did actually forget to mention, because I was just talking about the actual balance of things, it was a fucking rough start for performance-wise as well, especially for someone like me. If you got as unlucky as I did for crashing, I probably crashed about 80 to 100 times throughout the 12 hours, because most zones would just straight up take me like 5 crashes and relaunches to actually zone into. Yes, I tried all the fixes and all that. I just got fucked, I think. So performance-wise, it was pretty rough, but hopefully you're one of the people that didn't have any issues like that and had smooth sailing. In any case, we're level 43, Javathil, whatever. And the main thing you are looking for to make your playthrough very early on much easier, it's nothing too fancy, it's nothing too crazy, but it might not be super obvious, and it shouldn't be because it's kind of weird. It's Rake. Rake you get very early on. If you attach Stomping Ground to it, every single time you actually rake, you are proccing Stomping Grounds and doing a bunch of extra damage that's based off of your strength. Deal extra damage based off of your strength. So in the first act, once you get Rake and just attach Stomping Ground, if you just spec a little bit of strength or get some on your gear, you are just decimating everything with Rake everywhere, and it feels really good. So you can try all these other little combos and stuff, and it's all going to be okay. Some of it's going to be really bad, but ultimately this is basically just your bread and butter for just cruising through the first few acts, getting some strength, doing some Rake, making sure you have, like, you know, a bit more of a fizz type weapon. I've then put Brutality on here, but you can start doing Martial Tempo early on, which is the attack speed one, just because, you know, that's all you pretty much need. Once we get to the single target setup, it gets a little more complicated. It's a little bit more annoying. And I guess I can probably go to my hideout to show that off, because it's, you know, a bit annoying. And my combo right now still isn't even very good, because it bloody just, you know, it relies on things I don't currently have access to, essentially, without some extra jank. So what we have is my single target setup of Twister. It is attached to Persistence for more skill effect duration and acceleration. We then use Whirling Slash, which you get very early on, but you might not know it has up to 3 stages. So you can do 1 stage of Whirling Slash, and, you know, when you leave it, it does some bit of damage. Or you can cast your Twister. That's what 1 Twister looks like. 1 Twister through one of those, 2 extra Twisters. But if you have 3 Whirling Slashes up, you get much more damage from your Twisters, and you get much more Twisters out there. But if you have 3 of these out, and then press Barrage, and then press Twister, you get a fuck ton of Twisters shooting out there. But if you do any sort of ground effect, you have even more Twister damage, because it absorbs that cold lightning or fire to become a lot bigger in that element. Early on, I was doing parry, and then proccing like some frenzies off of, I don't know, something. In the end, it's a lot easier to just proc Chilled Ground off of Fangs of Frost by parrying. Once you parry, you can Fangs of Frost, does some Chilled Ground, have your combo wind up, do that. It's still pretty big, it's still pretty messy, but it at least has a very big payload and feels kind of worth it. The later game, or even mid-game of our build, is to have chilled fire or ice or shot ground pretty much happening all the time. So then all you need to do is throw out some Twisters. Just, you know, if you want, you can just spam some Twisters, or at least do some of these and then spam Twisters, and you have those ground effects just absorbed and happening all the time. You can get that through some unique effects. You can get that through a companion. So my companion right now doesn't have anything super useful. He's actually just got Thunderstorm attached to him, and that Thunderstorm helps. It like seems to do quite a bit of damage for some reason. It's actually not too weak. But we can have a minion that has like Trail of Fire, something like that. And then whenever I throw out tornadoes, it's just going to absorb that, and it can be basically just a tornado build. Likewise, once we get like, good usage of Combat Frenzy, I don't have it, Spirit Gem, Combat Frenzy, that's what's going to solve a lot of our charge generation for a lot of our skills later game and make this type of shit much more worthwhile. All of our skills that pretty much require some kind of frenzy bullshittery are going to be a lot easier with Combat Frenzy, with more damage, with more freeze reliability, all of that sort of shit. You can even go like, tacticians and pin build up all the time. Apparently that's going really well and pretty damn OP. But yeah, the big problem is almost all of these require several steps to like be good. And without those steps, they're just trash, which is a bit of I think, an error in the ways of these skills. So other than that, I used Herald of Blood and Herald of Ash interchangeably sometimes just to try them out, but Herald of Blood works nicely with Rake. To summon one of these dudes to get a minion or a companion, you basically have to get Tame Beast, put it on your bar. When you're about to kill something, use the Tame Beast. It gives you a window of opportunity for like 10 seconds to kill the thing, and then it becomes a gem that you can summon, right click to activate, and you have a permanent buffed minion. These will be pretty damn good, like I think, utility wise for like trails, fire and stuff, or just auras, shit like that as well. So they're going to be pretty damn good, I think. My Fangs of Frost is attached to Cold Infusion and Ice Bite. Disengage is what I was using with like the frenzy, I think, when we were parrying, and that's getting frenzies and then using like fucking, I don't know, whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm not doing that anymore. And then Barrage has Premeditation and Arcane Tempo. Whirling Slash has Area and Martial Tempo so that we can get our Whirling Slashes up quickly. And then Spear Stab, it was my single target for a while. It still has Pursuit attached to it, but it's not doing anything anymore. My passive tree was initially prioritizing its way towards the skill effect duration. I then went, it's going through there. I then went over to grab all this skill speed and spear stuff. And yeah, that's basically it. My tree's not anything special. It's not very good. I, am a pretty shit character overall. I also went this way to grab this stuff, which does seem to help quite a lot. You can see the life bar like being weird and stuff. That's the weakness that you can sometimes reveal, I suppose they call it. And my gear, yeah, nothing too special either. Just something with a bit of flat there. Ideally, I think you'd have more of a flat fizz kind of weapon, but this is what I got. I just then put on gloves with some fire damage, so prior to now, I had almost absolutely no actual added damage to my gear whatsoever. So that's what I'm saying. Our characters are definitely pieces of shit. Like, these are all level 10 items as well. Were I even just starting this as a second character, I'd have like, 10 to 15 cold here, 20 lightning there, fucking 20 or so fire, only just put this on, and a much better weapon. And it'd all be way easier. So anyway, yes, Huntress has some jank. Huntress is pretty fucking clumsy, but I think it looks like it's going to be a bit more of an endgame character once things are coming together. And the other thing to mention is, yep, apparently this is going real well as well. So you can grab this if you have some accuracy. It's going to give you a lot of extra crit. And then, of course, even more fizz damage as well. So it's going to be potentially some good endgame stuff. Aside from that, do I have to mention anything? No, I think that's pretty much it. So yeah, rough start to day one because, we're all Huntresses trying to learn and we're essentially playing like conversion trap style skills from PoE 1 and expecting our starter builds to go well. It will get better and they are gonna, I assume, be changing and tweaking things a bit more than just the monster life that they just then changed because, yeah, people are pretty upset. But persist, persevere. It fucking sucks, honestly. It fucking sucks. And I almost have never had this feeling with almost any other game that you feel like quitting plenty of times during it, but then you persevere and then you find the fun. Because, like I said, hours like 2 to 6 are extremely rough until you get certain combos. And then all of a sudden, I basically don't want to log off and I'm just like, wee, having fun. And then you hit another hurdle and you're like, man, fuck. So it's weird because when PoE 2 makes you feel bad, it makes you feel really bad. And I understand why a lot of people have been quitting because they're not getting over that hurdle. But if you can make it over that hurdle, it should still be rewarding. I think the game has potential. But I definitely think they need to rethink some of their, you know, I guess strategies to building the ARPG of their dreams, because some of it just ain't it. Some of it pretty on the right track. Yeah, I just don't think that it needs to be as hard and as complicated as they're currently making it. There could just be a lot more fun involved, and it could still be challenging. It could still be, a bit grindy and rewarding. But currently, there's just a lot of steps in the way of your greatness. But I do think greatness can be achieved, and I do think a lot of fun can be achieved too. So for now, Huntress, that's what I've got. I'll hopefully give you a bigger update in another day or two, if it's going well, or even if it's not. But yeah, good luck to you. Hope you're picking something good and getting out there. If you are struggling a bit, make sure you click on plenty of streams and stuff, because someone's figured some shit out and they're doing something good with the class that you're currently playing, and there is light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you very much for watching. See you guys next time.